The Constitution of India, Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution.
Hi children, how are you? Hope you are healthy and happy. Happy Vijayadashmi to you. May God shower His blessing so that your life will be filled with happiness. And my dear children, go ahead with your examination which is going to begin next week onwards. We are there to support you. Don't take any tension. Okay? Be always happy. So, I am going to begin the session by doing the recap. So, here in the last class we understood about healing of wound. Healing of wound is taking place by two methods. In one method it is said that when new similar tissues are formed, scar will not be found. And in the second method it is been said that when new similar tissues cannot be formed, the connective tissue heals the wound. In such situation the wound scar remains. So, that is related to the healing of wound. And next thing we understood about fever is also a defense mechanism. We know that the normal temperature is 27 degree centigrade or 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. And what is a fever? Fever is a condition when the body temperature rises above the normal level. And next thing related to fever, we understood that fever is not a disease but it is just a symptom through the flow chart. Here we understood that when the body temperature rises, that time what happens? There will be the reduction in the rate of multiplication of pathogen, and because of the rise in body temperature there will be increase in the effect of phagocytosis. So, that is related to the fever which we understood in the previous class, and later on we came to know that till fever the defense mechanism which we studied in last two previous classes all are coming under non-specific defense mechanism. Now, next we also understood that there are specific defense mechanism taking place in the body such as lymphocyte, which is also known as the warrior, isn't it? And what is a specific defense mechanism? That also we understood in the previous class. That is, it has been said that the defense mechanism that identifies the structure of each antigen and destroys it specifically is called specific defense. And in the case of specific defense mechanism, lymphocytes, they are playing an important role there. And we know that lymphocytes, they are formed in the bone marrow and they are of two types. One is B lymphocyte and they matures in the bone marrow, and the other one is T lymphocytes, they matures in the thymus gland. And these two lymphocytes, they are playing important role in the defense mechanism. That also we understood in the previous class. Related to B lymphocyte, we understood that they produce certain proteins that act against antigens, and these proteins are called antibodies. And antibodies, they are able to destroy pathogens in three different ways, and those three different ways we understood in the previous class related to B lymphocyte. Later on we understood about T lymphocyte. It is also playing an important role in defense mechanism by doing the defense by stimulating other defense cells of the body Number 2, destroying the cells affected by virus. And number 3, it destroys cancer cells. So, that is related to T lymphocyte. And later on we understood through the illustration that how the defense mechanism is taking place and what are the methods through which the body is defending the pathogens. Later on we understood that lymph is also playing an important role in the defense mechanism. So, that also we came to know, that is, it has been said that lymph contains plenty of lymphocytes. They destroy the disease causing bacteria in lymph nodes and spleen. So, that is also we understood in the previous class. And then we came to know that immunization is very, very important for protecting the body, because there are many pathogens which are overcoming all such defense mechanism and they are entering into the body of the organism, isn't it? So, in such cases or in such situations, immunization is very, very important, so that the diseases will be prevented and prevention of the germ which is entering into the body will be also, that is, prevented, isn't it? So, in that way immunization is playing an important role. And the first immunization, it was brought by Edward Jenner, and it is an artificial method to make the defense cell alert against the attack of the pathogen, that is immunization. And in the immunization process we know that vaccines are very, very important, and vaccines are substances which are used for artificial immunization. These vaccines, they are producing antibodies, and these antibodies will be working against antigens, or we can say foreign bodies, isn't it? So, that is how the vaccines, they are playing an important role. That also we understood in the previous class. And later on we came to know about vaccine as well as diseases, and I gave you homework related to the other 3 vaccines. I told you that other 3 vaccines you have to do by yourself. You have to find out which are the diseases related to these 3 vaccines. I hope you would have completed it. And the next one is related to the preparing a poster. That also was an homework for you. That also I hope you would have completed it. Now, in the previous class we also understood about treatment final disease, isn't it? Because it has been said that when body is not able to defend, surely ultimate is the treatment, which is a final defense. And there are different methods of treatment, and they are Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, Naturopathy, Homeopathy, Allopathy, isn't it? All these are the different methods of treatment. That also we understood in the previous class. And later on we came to know that when we are going to the doctor, that time doctor diagnoses the patient, and there are common tools related for the diagnosis, and related to these 3 common tools we understood in the previous class, and I told you which is very, very important, isn't it? And then we discussed and we understood that there are certain modern diagnostic tools available in the field of medicines. Related to these equipments also we studied, we understood in the previous class. And then we understood related to the laboratory test, which is also a diagnostic tool in the modern medicine, and laboratory test is also playing an important role to know the disease in the case of patient. And then we understood that there are specializations related to certain areas, and that also we discussed in the previous class. For example, cardiology, treatment of heart, treatment of eye, it is ophthalmology. Neurology is related to brain and nervous disorders. Cancer treatment, oncology. ENT is related with the ear, nose, throat treatment, isn't it? So, this kind of table also we discussed in the previous class. And then we understood that after diagnosis, doctor will be giving the medicine. So, what are medicines? Medicines are either substances extracted from plants, animals or microorganisms, or chemical substances synthesized in laboratory. In medicines there are antibiotics, isn't it? And what are antibiotics? These are the medicines that are extracted from microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, etc. And they are used to destroy bacteria, and that's why they are called antibiotics. And it was Alexander Fleming who first discovered antibiotics in 1928, and discovery was accidentally, and he discovered that fungus Penicillium notatum has ability to destroy the bacteria, isn't it? And from that the antibiotic penicillin was discovered. In this manner antibiotics was discovered, but it has been said that antibiotics, they are the effective medicines, but their regular use may create many side effects, and these are the certain side effects given here, which is very, very important. You have to study. Already we have discussed in the previous class. I think you would have understood about it also. So till there we understood the session. Now related to that you can call me and you can clarify your doubt, my dear children. Now the next is related to the first aid. So in this session we are going to learn and understand about first aid, isn't it? So what is a first aid? From the name itself we can say the first treatment given to the patient before going to the doctor or hospital. So here you can see A, B, C, 3 pictures are given there. In number 1 you can see giving artificial respiration. Number 2 is related to arm supported by sling, and number 3 removing objects stuck in trachea. So these are the first aid given to the patients before going to the doctor or to the hospital, isn't it? So first aid is the first treatment given to the patient before going to the doctor. Now next thing you can see here, during accidents, when accidents takes place, what happens? Heavy loss of blood occurs. How can this blood loss resolved? When a heavy loss of blood is taking place during accident, how it can be resolved, isn't it? So it is through blood transfusion. Next topic is blood transfusion. What is blood transfusion? The transfer of blood from one person to another is called blood transfusion. My dear children, which part I have highlighted is very, very important. You have to underline all these highlighted portion or parts or the sentence in your textbook, so that you will be able to study those parts very nicely and you can do it. You can perform it very nicely in your examination. So what is blood transfusion? It is a transfer of blood from one person to another. That is, when a person is giving the blood to another person, that transfer of blood from one person to another person is called blood transfusion. Understood? Now, next thing it has been said, what all things should be taken care of while transfusing blood. Blood cannot be given to any person, isn't it? So there are certain things which we have to keep in mind when we are giving blood to another person. So what are those things? We can see here. You can see notice board. These are the certain points which are always remembered by us when we are giving blood to a person. Here you can see people in the age group 18 to 60 can donate blood. The person who is having the age group 18 to 60 years, between these 18 to 60 years people can give or donate blood. Next one, blood donation can be done once in 3 months. Every month it cannot be done, but once in 3 months the blood can be donated. Third point, blood donation causes no problem to the donor's health. The person who is giving the blood donation, that will not cause any harm to the health of that person. Fourth point, pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers should not donate blood. Those who are pregnant and the mother who is feeding the child, they should not donate the blood. And the fifth one, it has been said, persons with communicable diseases should not donate blood. We know that what are communicable diseases, and the person or the people, those who are suffering from communicable diseases, they should not donate the blood. So, these are certain points which we have to always keep in mind when we are donating blood or when blood transfusion is taking place. It is very, very important, my dear children. You have to go through it and you have to study it. Okay. Now, next question, you can see it is being said that, it is being asked that, can a patient receive blood from any person? Why is blood group testing done prior to blood transfusion? Two questions are there. Number one, can a patient receive blood from any person? Answer is no. Why is blood group testing done prior to blood transfusion? When we are giving a blood to a person, we cannot go and give the blood to a person directly, isn't it? Before that, a test is being conducted and later on the transfusion is being done. Why this test is conducted? That is the second question. So, we can see why the test is conducted. So, it is here given here different types of blood groups in human beings, isn't it? Blood group, antigens and antibodies. My dear children, antigen and antibodies, they both are present on the RBC cell. Red blood cell is a cell on which antigen and antibodies are present, and based on the antigen as well as antibody, the blood grouping is done. Understood? Antigen will be present on the surface of the RBC cell and antibody is present in the plasma of RBC cell. So, based on the presence or absence of antigen as well as antibodies, blood grouping is done. So, we can see how the grouping is done. In the case of blood group A, those who are having blood group A, how they got blood group A, we can see. Antigen A is present on the surface of RBC cell of those people and antibody B is present in the plasma of those people. So, the importance is given to the antigens. Okay. So, as antigen A is present on the surface of the RBC cell, therefore, the blood group is A group. Now, in the case of the person who is having blood group B, how the person got blood group B, we can see. I told you that antigens presence or absence will be giving the blood group. So, here you can see on the surface of RBC cell of those people, antigen B is present and inside the plasma antibody A is present. So, based on the presence of antigen B, the blood group of that person is B. Now, in the case of AB blood group, how this AB blood group, it is being there in those people, we can see because of the presence of antigen A and B. And in the case of antibody, as antigen A and B is present here, therefore, in them antibodies are nil. So, in the plasma antibodies are not there, but antigens A and B are present there, and based on the presence of this antigen A and B, they are having the blood group AB. And those people who is having O group, how we can see? In the case of antigen, it is nil. But in the case of antibody, both A and B are present there. As it is nil, therefore, it is O group. I think you would have understood about the blood grouping A, B, AB and O. Okay, so that is related to different types of blood group. It is again important, my dear children. Now, we can see related to the grouping itself. It has been given that the basis of blood grouping is the presence of antigen A and antigen B in RBC cell. That is, in the RBC cell, the presence of antigen A and antigen B will give the blood grouping to that person, isn't it? Number 2, it has been said that the blood group of a person is named according to the antigen present in that person's body. Already I told you, the presence of antigen is giving the blood grouping to that person. If a person is having blood group A, that shows that that person is having antigen A in the blood. Okay. Now, the next point, it has been said that in blood group A, antibody B, and in group B, antibody A are present. Now, in addition to antigen A and B, another antigen called D or Rh factor is present in the cell membrane of red blood cell of the certain persons. Already we said that in the normal blood group, in the RBC cell, antigen A, antigen B or antigen AB is present there, isn't it? Based on that thing only the blood grouping is been done. Now it has been said that in certain people other than AB, other than antigen AB, there is one more antigen present and that is called antigen D, which is also known as Rh factor, and it is present in the cell membrane of the RBC of certain people. Okay. Now, the blood groups in which Rh factor is present are known as positive blood group, and those without Rh factor are called negative blood group. We all are having blood group, and we used to say that I am having A positive and I am having B positive, I am having AB negative, I am having O positive. What is this positive? What is this negative? This positive and negative is Rh factor. That is, if antigen D is present there, surely we can say that positive. If Rh factor is absent, we can say it as negative. So, in the case of a person who is having blood group A based on antigen A, isn't it? In that person, if that person is having Rh factor also, surely we can say that that person is having the blood group as A positive. For example, I am having the antigen B and surely my blood group will be B. But with that, if I am going with the another antigen, that is Rh factor, if it is present there in my blood, surely I can say that I am having B positive. In the same manner, if antigen D or Rh factor is not present there in the blood along with the normal antigen A and B, we can say that that person is negative. That is A negative, B negative, AB negative, O negative. I think you would have understood about antigen D or Rh factor. It is very, very important. Now, this part is very important, my dear children. The last paragraph you can see here. When a foreign antigen reaches one's blood, it stimulates the defense mechanism. When a foreign antigen, that is, if I am giving a blood to another person and from my body through the blood, the antigen when it reaches to the another person's body, what will happen? It stimulates the defense mechanism of that person's body. Okay. Now, because of that, what happens? On receiving unmatching blood, the antigen present in the donor's blood and the antibody present in the recipient's blood will react with each other and form a blood clot. Hence, everyone cannot receive blood from all blood group. That is the second question which we learned, which we came to know, isn't it? The second question was asked there. Why is blood group testing done prior to blood transfusion? Isn't it? And next it is been said that everyone cannot receive blood from all blood group. Why? The answer is here itself. When a foreign antigen, when it reaches one's blood, what happens? It stimulates the defense mechanism of that person. That is, on receiving unmatching blood, what happens? The antigen present in the donor's blood and the antibodies present in the recipient's blood, isn't it? I am giving the blood to a person. So, in my blood antigen is present there, and when this blood is being received by that person, that is the donor, that is the recipient person, when he receives that blood and in his blood antibodies are present there. So, what will happen? The antigen of my blood and the antibodies of his blood both will be reacting with each other, and because of that, if it is unmatching blood, surely what will happen? blood clot will be taking place, and because of that what happens, sometimes death may take place of that person. Hence everyone cannot receive blood from all blood groups. Understood, my dear children? This is very, very important. Now next one is prepare posters on the greatness of donating blood. You have to again prepare 2 or 3 posters related to donating the blood, isn't it? Donate blood, save life. One of the poster. This is one of the poster. Donate blood, save life. In this manner you have to prepare the poster. You have to prepare the poster in your file. So 2-3 posters you have to prepare related to the blood donation. I think you would have understood about it, my dear children. Now next is indicators, antigens and blood group. Antigen is playing an important role in blood grouping. Antigen A, B, AB and O. Based on this we can say blood grouping is being done, that is presence or absence of antigen will be deciding a person's blood group. Antibodies and blood group, isn't it? That is also playing an important role there. And what is Rh factor? It is another antigen related to blood grouping. Its presence will be giving positive, its absence will be giving negative blood group. So that is related to Rh factor. And one more important thing is given related to Rh factor is that if unmatched blood is there, what will happen? Blood clot will be taking place and the death of a person will be taking place. So antigen presence or absence is deciding, as well as the testing of the blood before transfusion is very, very important. So that is related to blood grouping. I think you would have understood about blood grouping in human being. Now my dear children, that is related to human being. Now it has been said that defense mechanism in plants too is also taking place. In case of, it has been said that as in animals, plants also have mechanisms to prevent the entry of germs and to fight against those that have already entered. In plants, defense is made possible through structural and biochemical methods. So in plants, how the defense is being done? Through structural as well as biochemical methods. So we can analyze the illustration based on defense mechanism in plant, and this illustration is very, very important, my dear children. You can see here in the case of leaf, wax covering cuticle is present there and it prevents entry of germs through leaves. And in the case of stem, we can see bark are present there and it protects the inner cells from direct contact of pathogen. And next thing they have said that cell wall is present there in case of stem or leaf or bark or whatever is been there, cell wall is present there and it is well equipped resistant coat. Chemical substances such as lignin, cutin, suberin, etc. It provides rigidity to the cell wall, and the germs that have crossed the cell wall are prevented from entering through the cell membrane by callose. Callose, it is a polysaccharide formed in the cell wall. So in the cell wall, what is present there? Callose is present there. Callose, what it is? It is a polysaccharide, isn't it? And this callose is preventing the entry of germs through cell membrane. So in this manner, cell wall is also protecting the plant from pathogens. I think you would have understood about the defense mechanism in plant through the illustration. Now this part, illustration 5.10 is again important, which you have to complete. It is based on the previous illustration. Here already it is being given there, defense mechanism in plants. So already bark is given there, and what bark is doing, you can see there in the top, it is said that bark, it protects the inner cells from direct contact of pathogens. So here you have to write this one, isn't it? Protects the inner cell from direct contact of pathogen. Next one, it has been said related to the next part, that is, you can see it is written a well equipped resistant coat. well equipped resistant coat. Which is that well equipped resistant coat? It is a cell wall. So, you have to write here cell wall. Now, the next two parts are there. So, you can see there it is been given there, that is related to the wax covering cuticle, isn't it? Wax covering cuticle. So, leaf they are, here you can write wax covering cuticle, that is leaf, and here you have to write about callus, isn't it? What it is doing? It is preventing the entry of germs through cell membrane. So, here callus, and it is preventing the entry of cell membrane, entry of pathogen through cell membrane. So, in this manner you have to complete these 3 areas, isn't it? Complete 3 areas, 1, 2, 3 areas, and this is related to the bark. So, all these part you have to complete here, that is, this is bark, here you have to write about leaves, here you have to write about callus, here it is cell wall, isn't it? So, like this you have to complete this illustration related to defense mechanism in plants. I think you would have understood about this part. It is very, very important, my dear children. So, with this we are going to finish this chapter, and it has been said that our body is well equipped with various defense mechanism. Similarly, it is our responsibility to evolve defense mechanism to protect our environment from factors causing diseases. So, this is very, very important. What is our responsibility? To evolve defense mechanism so that we can protect our environment from factors causing diseases. So, with this your chapter is completed. I think you would have understood about the chapter, and if you are having any doubt related to the chapter, you can call me and you can clarify it, my dear children. Don't keep it pending. Now, in the case of let us assess, number 1, which among the following is not included in non-specific body mechanism? Non-specific body mechanism, which is not included there? Production of sebum, it is there. Action of hydrochloric acid in the stomach is a non-specific defense mechanism. Action of lysozyme in saliva is also a non-specific defense mechanism. So, this is the answer, that is action of B lymphocyte, that is C. Number C, action of B lymphocyte is a defense mechanism, but it is a specific defense mechanism and it is not coming under non-specific defense mechanism. So, this is the answer for this question. Now, question number 2, write the functions of blood cells in the defense mechanism of the body, isn't it? So, in the case of blood cells, we have studied different types of WBC, monocyte, neutrophil, basophil, eosinophil, isn't it? All these are the blood cells and we have understood their functions also in the defense mechanism. So, that part you have to write here. So, that is the answer for second question. And next one, what is the basis of grouping blood into different types? Now, in this session we understood that the blood grouping is being done based on the presence or absence of antigens or antibodies in the RBC cell of the person. That is the answer for this question. And next one, everybody cannot receive blood of all blood group Y. That also we understood, isn't it, my dear children? We have understood about that part by seeing this part. Which one? This one. This is the answer for the third question. This last paragraph you have to write as such for the third question related to let us assess. This is the answer for that question. Okay. So, I think you would have understood about let us assess, and with this I think so we have completed let us assess also. So, my dear children, with this chapter is completed. In your file you have to do the indicators and the homework which I have given to you, and let us assess related to this chapter. But don't do it now. After your examination, when you are completing your examination, that is I think by 18th you will be finishing your exam. So after 18th you can go with this chapter, and what all homeworks I have given to you related to this chapter, you have to see to it, and the indicators as well as let us assess, you have to do it, that is after 18th of November. Till 18th of November you have to focus on your examination, which is very very important. My dear children, once again I am telling you, don't take tension related to your examination. Be happy, study well, perform nicely in your exam. We are there to support you. Okay, so I am winding this session. In the next session we will be meeting soon. Till then, take care.